Mazie by Joseph Mitchell from Up in the Old Hotel. A bossy yellow-haired blonde named Mazie P. Gordon is a celebrity in the Bowery. In the nickel-a-drink saloons and in the all-night restaurants which specialize in pig snouts and cabbage at a dime a platter, she is known by her first name. She makes a round of these establishments practically every night, and drunken bums sometimes come up behind her, slap her on the back, call her sweetheart. This never annoys her. She has a wry but genuine fondness for bums, and is undoubtedly acquainted with more of them than any other person in the city. Each day she gives them between $5 and $15 in small change, which is a lot of money on the Bowery. In my time, I've been as free with my dimes as old John D. himself, she says. Mazie has presided for 21 years over the ticket cage of the Venice Theater at 209 Park Row, a few doors west of Chatham Square, where the Bowery begins. The Venice is a small, seedy, moving picture theater, which opens at 8 a.m. and closes at midnight. It is a dime house. For this sum, a customer sees 2 features, a newsreel, a cartoon, a short, and a serial episode. The Venice is not a scratch house. In fact, it is highly esteemed by its customers because its seats get a scrubbing at least once a week. Mazie brags that it is as sanitary as the Paramount. Nobody ever got loused up in the Venice, as she says. On the Bowery, cheap movies rank just below cheap alcohol as an escape, and most bums are movie fans. In the clientele of the Venice, they are numerous. The Venice is also frequented by people from the tenement neighborhoods in the vicinity of Chatham Square, such as Chinatown, the Little Italy on Lower Mulberry Street, and the Spanish section on Cherry Street. 2/3 of its customers are males. Children and most women sit in a reserved section under the eye of a matron. Once, in an elegant mood, Mazie boasted that she never admits intoxicated persons. "When do you consider a person intoxicated?" she was asked. Mazie snickered. "When he has to get down on all fours and crawl," she said. In any case, there are drunks in practically every Venice audience. When the liquor in them dies down, they become fretful and mumble to themselves, and during romantic pictures they make loud, crazy, derogatory remarks to the actors on the screen. But by and large, they are not as troublesome as a class of bums Mazie calls the stiffs. These are the most listless of bums. They are blank-eyed and slow-moving, and they have no strong desire for anything but sleep. Some are able to doze while leaning against a wall, even in freezing weather. Many stiffs habitually go into the Venice early in the day and slumber in their seats until they are driven out at midnight. "Some days I don't know which this is, a movie picture theater or a flop house," Mazie once remarked. "Other day I told the manager pictures with shooting in them are bad for business. They wake up the customers." Most Bowery movie houses employ bouncers. At the Venice, Mazie is the bouncer. She tells intimates that she feels fighting is unladylike, but that she considers it her duty to throw at least one customer out of the theater every day. "If I didn't put my foot down, the customers would take the place," she says. "I don't get any fun out of fighting. I always lose my temper. When I start swinging, I taste blood, and I can't stop. Sometimes I get beside myself. Also, a lot of the bums are so weak that they don't fight back, and that makes me feel like a heel." Mazie is small, but she is wiry and fearless, and she has a frightening voice. Her ticket cage is in the shadow of the tracks of the City Hall spur of the 3rd Avenue elevated line, and 2 decades of talking above the screeching of the trains have left her with a rasping bass, with which she could dominate men twice her size. Now and then in the Venice, Stiff throws his head back and begins to snore so blatantly that he can be heard all over the place, especially during tense moments in the picture. When this happens, or when one of the drunks gets into a bellowing mood, the women and children in the reserve section stamp on the floor and chant, "Mazie! Mazie! We want Mazie!" The instant this chant goes up, the matron hastens out to the lobby and raps on the side window of Mazie's cage. Mazie locks the cash drawer, grabs a bludgeon she keeps around, made of a couple of copies of True Romances rolled up tightly and held together by rubber bands, and strides into the theater. As she goes down the aisle, peering this way and that, women and children jump to their feet, point fingers in the directions of the offender, and cry, "There he is, Mazie! There he is!" Mazie gives the man a resounding whack on the head with her bludgeon, and keeps on whacking him until he seems willing to behave. Between blows, she threatens him with worse punishment. Her threats are fierce and not altogether coherent. "Out of here on a stretcher," she yells. "Knock your eyeballs out, big baboon! Every tooth in your head, bone in your body!" The women and children enjoy this, particularly if Mazie gets the wrong man, as she sometimes does. In action, Mazie is an alarming sight. Her face becomes flushed, her hair flies every which way, and her slip begins to show. If a man defends himself or is otherwise contrary, she harries him out of his seat and drives him from the theater. As he scampers up the aisle, with Mazie right behind him, whacking away, the women and children applaud.